Virtually all worlds are hellish landscapes. This includes our own, for each Earth, however similar or different, seemed to be living on borrowed time. Nuclear wars, alien invasions, insurrections, the fall of society, pandemics, and even scientific and supernatural threats alike. These were only a small fraction of what could happen to end Earth, any Earth, and Dr. Phillips has witnessed the death of 5 thus far. What he has never seen is a glimpse into a perfect world. In 2016, however, it finally happened. Granted, only the dreamer, Joshua Sims, a 10-year-old boy living in Michigan, witnessed a utopia. This inevitably led him to being swiftly captured by Evan Michaels, without the use of his men. Evan simply posed as a therapist who was assigned to Joshua when his parents believed he needed counseling for his dreams. Little did they know that when they left their son in the hands of a beautiful demon, he struck. When they returned at the end of the 1-hour session, both Evan and Joshua were gone, having already landed in Kansas. That was 4 years ago, next week, and Joshua had not dreamed of a single utopia since. He only looked into mundane worlds with differences so small that they couldn't be told apart. Dr. Phillips had interviewed and counseled the boy several times over the years, with his determination as strong as it was in the beginning. Joshua claimed that the world he had seen was beyond perfect. Social constructs such as wealth, class, religion, racism, and sexism were non-existent. Crime and poverty were also unfathomable in such a place, as mankind evolved much earlier with brain development higher than on any other Earth. By the 21st century, humans were living in an incredibly advanced society with perfect health and resources for all. Peace had taken a strong hold over the planet, with only one war in their history, and this war took place so early on in man's growth that no one currently alive could know of it. After the trauma of being kidnapped and subdued enough for Joshua to open up about this world he had seen, Evan was skeptical. Hell, he was beyond skeptical. He outright laughed at the boy, calling him either a liar, crazy, or just a normal person with normal dreams. The boy didn't respond to such insults, nor did Dr. Phillips allow it to continue. He forbid Evan Michaels from being present in Joshua's interview from that moment onward. Over time, Dr. Phillips inevitably noticed that Joshua was terrified of his kidnapper, speaking timidly when Evan was present, versus when he was alone with the doctor. As much of a prodigy as Evan was, Dr. Phillips still had his doubts about the young man. When Evan stated that he did not believe enough in mankind for there to be perfect worlds, the doctor began to question if his work should be left in the hands of his student. There has to be opposite ends of the spectrum, Dr. Phillips had insisted after hearing such words, gawking at the young man who only shrugged. On every world I've ever seen, or that you've ever seen, man is either no better than here, or he is worse. Earths are left to ruin, and conflict and fear control everything. Evan had responded, and Dr. Phillips took a deep breath. That is not the point of our work here, Evan, the doctor told him in a disappointed tone. We are here to discover the unknown, and hopefully benefit our world for it. But what is your definition of the word benefit? Evan challenged the doctor, and the older man frowned. Ignoring the question, Dr. Phillips countered, asking, And if this world actually exists, what then? What will you believe? Evan shrugged once more. Then I guess you get to be right, that's all. I still won't believe in man. Dr. Phillips sighed and nodded towards the door, saying, That will be all, Evan. Thank you for your input. I will call upon you again when you're needed. Evan grinned. Of course, Doctor. I'll be around. 4 years later, in the present day, Joshua was dreaming. It wasn't often that he dreamed, placing the boy in a separate category from the others, but it was what he saw that night that set him in a league of his own. For that distant world he had dreamed of many years before had returned to his nightly view. To his surprise, this world had only gotten more progressive. Psychics of all kinds were regarded as heroes, or whatever they chose to be. In this reality, they were protectors employed by the world's governments. Joshua himself, on this earth, was one of many who worked to ensure that their world wasn't discovered by a hostile force. They were well aware of the threats enveloping other universes, and while they refrained from interfering, they were dedicated to protecting their own. The fact that society was so advanced made it easier for psychics to blend into the world and do their jobs, making it a much safer place. The Joshua in this world was a government agent in training, working with senior agents to learn his place, and using his abilities as a dreamer to see the mistakes of other worlds, or perhaps even threats coming from them. Joshua peered through this version of himself with great envy, as this alternate version was much healthier and happier, with strong connections to both of his parents who understood what he was, and even loved him for it. Joshua, like every other alternate human being in this world, wanted for nothing, and their lives were filled with peace and fulfillment. Although they were on pedestals, the psychics of the world lived no better than those they worked for or sought to protect. And there were all different kinds of them, from telepathy, teleportation, psychic surgery, and so much more. They all had a specific niche in the roles that they played. Although dreamers are the most common form of psychic, the Joshua of this earth was in a league of his own as well. For this version of the boy saw the opposite of the one peering through him. He exclusively viewed dying worlds, or those that were already dead. His trainers were two people that he was close to on most worlds, Winter and Cole. In many ways, they were like older siblings to him. They taught him how to utilize his abilities to their best possible performance, and with their help he was learning fast, much faster than those before him. As he watched through eyes that were not his own, our Joshua got to experience what it would have been like to grow up at home. As he sat at a desk in his bedroom, filled with superhero posters and video games, he was doing homework that Winter had sent him home with. He was furiously working away when there was a knock on the bedroom door, and when it opened, he looked to see his mother, Catherine. She had her curly, black hair tied back in a ponytail, and when she glanced upon her son, she smiled brightly. Something our Joshua was seeing for the first time, only through the eyes of another self. "Hello, son," she chirped, and Joshua set his pen down and returned her expression. "Hey, Mom," he replied, doing his best to match her shining complexion. "Did you and Dad have a good time at the reception?" "We did," Catherine answered, and her smile stretched. "Your Aunt Irene sends her regards. She wished you could have been there, but she understood that your work is extremely important. She told me to tell you that she loves you." Joshua nodded regretfully. "I'll do my best to make it up to her. Maybe I'll take her to her favorite restaurant, the one with the nacho fountain." "That would be nice," his mother agreed. "She would like that." Joshua glanced back at his homework and pushed it to the side, sitting up from his seat. As he did, his mother reopened the bedroom door and motioned outwards. "Lunch is ready, Joshua," she told him, and then frowned. "You also have a visitor. She was waiting on the front porch when we arrived. She said she wanted to speak with you personally." Joshua raised an eyebrow. "Someone with the government?" Catherine shrugged. "She didn't say, but she was certainly adamant about talking to you." "Did she say what her name was?" Joshua's mom nodded. "She said her name was Autumn Walker." After a quick turkey sandwich on wheat bread, Joshua exited his home to find an older woman sitting on the front steps of his porch. She had light skin, blue eyes, and curly red hair that stopped at her shoulders. She gave the boy a warm smile and gestured for him to sit next to her. "You must be Joshua," she murmured and turned to look at the street ahead of them. "I've been meaning to talk to you for some time now. Come, sit with me." The boy frowned, ignoring her request, as he asked, "Why would you want to talk to me? Are you with the government?" "Yes," Autumn answered honestly and then shook her head. "But I am not employed by them, nor do I work for any governing body. I am what you would call a head of the table. Your table, to be more exact." "My table?" Joshua spoke softly as he tried to decipher what she could have meant. "There are psychics in this world as well as other worlds who oversee many groups of lower-level psychics. We are known as the heads of these tables. Most of the time, only one member of each group will know of our existence, while the others remain clueless for their own safety, as well as ours." "So you are a psychic," Joshua said with a nod, his suspicions confirmed. "So, if I am in the group you oversee, who knows about you?" "Winter," she replied, and Joshua's eyes widened. He hadn't expected to hear the name of someone he considered an older sister. Before he could say anything to this revelation, Autumn placed a hand on his left temple and closed her eyes. "But I am not here to speak to this Joshua," she whispered, and the Joshua of this world was momentarily suspended within his own subconscious. "I am here to speak with the one currently seeing through him," the woman continued, and the Joshua who was dreaming found himself pulled to the surface. He blinked uncontrollably as he attempted to take in the cleaner air of this perfect earth and its much more natural environment. Where am I?" the dreaming boy asked, and Autumn gave him the same smile she had gave the other Joshua only minutes ago. "Hello, Joshua," she said kindly, and the boy couldn't believe what he was experiencing. Normally, a dreamer cannot fully control his alternate host body, instead being subject to observe and hear what they dreamed of. "Hello," he murmured, and Autumn breathed deeply as he asked, "How did you do that?" "I coexist with all parallel versions of myself, sharing a singular conscience," she explained. "That is my psychic ability. We call it oneness." "We?" "There isn't much time," Autumn told him, shaking her head. "I cannot keep my world's Joshua suspended for long without causing damage to his mind. You must hear me out, child." Joshua simply nodded as he could feel the urgency in her tone. Since becoming a test subject and being victim to Evan's mind games, he had developed a keen sense of reading other people. "You must find me in your world," Autumn instructed him. "You're being held in Carbondale, right?" When the boy nodded again, the woman continued. "Then you aren't far. I am a therapist in Topeka, Kansas. I have the same name, so it shouldn't be hard. I promise that I will remember you when you come. But your life and the survival of your world depends on you finding me, Joshua. All of you must find me." Joshua couldn't respond before waking up in his padded cell, sweating while shivering in his bed. His sheets were soaked and his teeth were chattering. For the remainder of the night, sleep would escape him. But even if he could fall asleep, he had no desire to re-enter the dream world. Dr. Martin Phillips could not believe nor comprehend what he had just seen. In many ways, he was more surprised than Joshua had been, and the boy was the one who experienced it. For the first time in the decades he had spent searching, the doctor had finally seen a better world than the average. A true utopia. "My God," the old man said as he replayed the conversation between Autumn Walker and the boy. The doctor quickly produced a tape recorder from his lab coat and pressed the red button to record. Joshua finally dreamed of the utopia, making him the second subject to witness the same world twice, only 3 weeks after Winter had done the same. This blessed world, dubbed Earth 1A, is as beautiful as the young boy has described it. Dr. Phillips paused for a moment before continuing. I do not intend to tell Evan of this discovery, as I plan to file this specific dream recording in my personal files, accessible only to me. It is not his lack of belief that deters me from including him. Rather, it is my growing mistrust of the young man and his motives. To be honest, Evan Michaels sometimes scares me. When he was done, Dr. Phillips quickly placed the device back into his coat and produced a radio from another pocket. Evan. He spoke the name, and moments later he got a response. Yes, Dr. Phillips? Evan radioed back, his voice eerily calm and bored. I need you to depart the facility immediately, the doctor told him, and Evan grew excited on the other end. Do you have a mission for me? Yes, but it is a repeat of your current assignment. There was a long silence before Evan eventually said, The therapist? Indeed, Dr. Phillips replied, and his tone grew stern. It is imperative that you find Autumn Walker as soon as possible and finish building a profile on her. I will inform you of more once you have done this. Go, immediately. Yes, Doctor. I will prepare for my departure now. Evan rolled his eyes as he clipped the radio back to his belt and began making his way out of the facility. He was always dressed and ready for an assignment, as they were the only times he was ever permitted to leave the underground facility. As he walked down a long hallway, he deliberately passed by the holding cells of the 6 test subjects. He sneered at each and every one of them before coming to the second-to-last one. Joshua was still sitting up in his bed, his eyes wide and his mouth agape. He was still trying to understand what he had just dreamed of, and what Autumn Walker had said to him. Apparently, this world was in danger. Hello, Joshua, Evan purred as he tried to lock eyes with the boy, and he immediately knew that something unusual was going on within his mind. Did we have a bad dream tonight? He asked the teenager with a sneer before telling him, Well, I'm leaving the facility for a few days, so I'm sure you'll have enough downtime before I come back. Although, I may check in on your parents while I'm gone. The boy's eyes glanced at Evan's, and he seemed horrified to hear such a thing. Evan was notorious for playing mind games with the subjects, particularly Cole and Joshua. But the awful truth behind Evan's words was that he rarely lied. If I'm being honest, Evan continued, and he grinned, I've checked on them before. I've looked into them from time to time, ensuring that they aren't sniffing out your trail. But furthermore, I'm hoping to learn anything useful from them. I'll let you know what results I bring home. Joshua was speechless as the evil excuse for a man made his way down the hallway. The boy leaned over his bed and vomited on the floor. His stomach churned and even ached as he softly cried, thinking of the happier version he had seen of his mother in the other world. The voices of Winter, Jamie, and Cole tried to comfort him. But the final cell, the one Evan passed before he could exit through a locked steel door, held a strong young man by the name of Nicholas. He was a well-built African-American male with a body that rivaled Evan's. He was 19 years old, making him the second youngest of the subjects and by far the hardest one to obtain. When his eyes locked with Evan's, he dragged his thumb across his throat and mouthed the words, I'm going to smash your brains. The doctor's protege narrowed his eyes as he considered the likelihood of such a thing, and he quickly opened the door and shut it behind him, leaving the subjects in a mood that he had fully intended for them to be in.